What is up, my friends, and welcome to another edition of the Studio Sherpas podcast. I'm Ryan Koral, and I'm your host. What a privilege it is for me to host this show, and I am glad you're here. This is going to be a fun one. This episode is unscripted. Like the last one that I did by myself, I called it unscripted, and I had one question, and I spent a long time answering that one question. So this one, the question is, how do I stop attracting cheapskate clients? And this was born out of a coaching call that I did earlier this week with a couple, really awesome couple. And they are still kind of early in the launching of their video business. One of them is in full-time, and the partner is still working a full-time job, trying to transition into doing video full-time. And the struggle is real, my friends. I mean, I don't know where you're at in your video business, but I remember when I first started, I don't know if you know this, but when I first, this is so embarrassing. I shouldn't say it's embarrassing. This is my origin story, and it got me to where I am today. I mean, I don't know if you know me, but I've got a couple of Porsches. I live on a yacht part-time. Just kidding. It got me to where I'm at today. I have all of the things, and but I do have a lot of peace and joy and love, and I love my job, my family. I'm so grateful for all the things that I have. But, rewinding to 16 years ago, let's see, my wife and I, 16 years ago, I was in our little government-subsidized townhouse, and I left the job. I was working at a college. I was doing some video stuff for them, along with really just planning events and stuff. And they got to start doing video stuff. And once I started doing video stuff, I was like, oh my gosh, how do I do this full time? So I started doing the math. Every drive to the college and home from the college, I was doing math and trying to figure out, how can I replace my income at the college by doing video? And I was doing like slideshows. So I was scanning slides, like old school, thick white border, like slide thing that you put into a slide projector. If you're listening to this episode and you have no idea what I'm talking about, then I know how old you are or young you are. So I was scanning slides, putting them on my computer, and then creating like montages, like, getting a song. Unfortunately, back then, I think I only used unlicensed, like copyrighted music. Is that legal for me to say? This was, a long time ago, and that stuff doesn't live online. So should I admit that online? I don't know. Whatever. I didn't use copyrighted music. How about that? I'll just say that. Then I'm lying. Okay. I don't know where this show's going. Why am I doing unscripted? This is not, Ryan, you should have consulted with your lawyer before you went here. Anyway, I'm putting these videos together for, Grandpa's 80th birthday, this couple's 50th anniversary, first birthday party. I'm putting these, 2, 3, 5 minute little videos together. And then at some point I was getting video clips, and I could add video clips into them. So I am adding and multiplying in my head, which is always a dangerous thing. How many slides do I need to scan? How long does it take to scan? How quick can I put together a video? How many of these can I do in a day? How many of these can I sell in a week? And I figured out the math. I can't remember what it was, but it was a lot. I was going to have to do like flyers and create brochures, and I was going to put I was going to put brochures and flyers in people's like mailboxes, and I was going to knock on doors. I had this whole strategy. Fortunately, shortly thereafter, I had some very generous friends that had really cool cameras. There was a camera at the college that I was able to borrow, and then I had another mentor friend of mine who had it was a Sony TRV 900. I got to borrow his camera. So I started actually filming stuff and was able to start convincing people to hire me to film stuff instead of just do these slides. And I realized that I could make more money by filming than just scanning slides and copying video footage over to a computer and combining those things. And I liked filming way better than I did scanning. and it wasn't just slides, it was pictures too. So, oh man, the cutting, the pasting inside of Photoshop, I'd put as many pictures on the bed of the scanner as possible. And then I'd have to cut them all out once they were scanned and create separate files for them. And then I have to export them and then import them into iMovie, and goodness gracious. But I had a system. I was efficient. Thank goodness I transitioned to just mostly filming versus doing the slideshows. I say all of that to say prices started at like $49 for a slideshow. My first real paying gig that wasn't through the college or wasn't from somebody at our church, but was from somebody that I didn't know. It was like, twice removed, and they paid me $300 to come film their 13-year-old son at the little ski hill that was around the corner from where we lived. Film him. He was going to be in the Olympics, so he did all these tricks. And oh my goodness, that was so fun. I filmed this thing. There were like these filter packs back then, which I guess there are today too. But I bought these filter packs that back then were terrible. But I added every single filter, made it look as much like a music video as I could. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. If I could ever pull this thing up, I will find it for you and show it to you. And you will be like, oh my goodness, somebody paid you for that. And you actually thought that you could have a career in this work. Oh, it's so bad. But so good, if you know what I'm saying. So anyway, they paid me $300, and I was like, this is amazing. And then, a couple months after that, when it started warming up here, my friend Jeffrey Lewis Bennett, who was a wedding photographer, I worked with him at the college. He was a graphic designer. I learned so much from this guy. He approached me I think it was in May or June or something like that. He said, hey, I'm filming this wedding, or I'm photographing this wedding this weekend. They don't have a videographer. They've got $500. Are you interested? I'm like, oh my gosh, $500 compared to my, $300 other project and just, $60 slideshow here or there. I was like, for sure, I'll do this thing. And I figured out how to, film a wedding. I was researching, seeing what there was online. And I'm like, I could totally do this, and I can do it way better than what I was seeing online. And anyway, that was $500. And I was like, this is amazing. And then I decided I would make wedding packages. I would create some packages because my wife and I were somewhat recently married and knew that our photographer had different packages, and was just like, okay, this is what you do. You have packages. You have bronze, silver, gold, platinum. I mean, raise your hand if you've ever had those colored packages before. Okay, yeah, sort of embarrassing too, but again, it's what's made me what I am today. This is really just a self-reflection episode. Thanks for being along the journey here. So then I create a $995 package, a $1,495, and a $1,995 package. And, it took a little while, but I started booking these, $1,500. Then I booked a $2,000. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is unreal. And of course, for the $2,000 package, it was like, I basically gave them my life and said, do whatever you need to do. Gave them way too many things for a $2,000 package. But, you live, you learn, you realize like, oh, okay, maybe I don't have to give away the farm for, my top package or whatever the case may be. But to get a $2,000 check. So anyway, I had this coaching call, and they're talking about, we keep getting these cheapskate clients. Cheapskate. Did I say steak? Cheap steak. Cheap steak. I've had a cheap steak before. I've had plenty of cheap steaks before. I've also had plenty of cheapskate clients before. So, they're kind of sharing the story of like, hey, somebody called, they explained the kind of video that they need. And they're like, okay, well, that sounds like it's probably like a $1,500 job. And then they're like, oh, well, we've only got $350. And as soon as I heard them, share this part of the story, I was like, oh, it took me back. And this is, nothing against them or the situation. I just feel like we've all been in a similar spot, right? So totally resonated with this. But what it made me kind of think through is like, wow, like I'm glad I'm not there anymore. We're, just kind of fighting over $350, knowing that this video is way bigger than what they have. But at the same time, knowing that, man, I could really use $350. I could really use some work right now. So, they push back and say, well, we could add some drone coverage to that, and we could do it for $500. And then the client is like, just playing hardball and was like, well, we'll only have $350. First off, who on earth, I'll calm down a little bit, but seriously, who on earth thinks that $350 should get you anything good? There are plenty of people out there. They just don't understand the value. They don't understand the time. They don't understand how much the equipment is. And maybe they do, but they just don't value. They don't care. I don't know. I don't get it, but they're out there. And I'm probably like that in other facets of my life. I mean, I probably go to, I don't know, when my daughter goes to get married, I'm going to, be trying to lowball everybody. Maybe that will be me. But in the meantime, I hope that I'm valuing people in their thing. My intention is not to be offensive, and their intention probably is not to be offensive either. When they say, well, we've only got $350. Maybe they're playing hardball. Maybe they're just like, well, let's see if we can get it for $350. Maybe we would pay $1,000 if nobody else would do it for $350. So that's part of the problem. We're part of the problem. Like we're as we say yes to these jobs, we're kind of perpetuating. Wow, I never use that word. That's a good one. But we're perpetuating these opportunities for companies to say, you know what, I could go on Fiverr, I could go on Upwork, I could find somebody that will do this for next to nothing. So as I was talking with them, we were just talking about knowing what your value is. And if you don't know what your value is, you have to figure it out. You have to figure out, like, what does it cost for your business to run? Like, what are those numbers? You have to figure out, like, what does it actually cost to turn the lights on for your business? And I'm not just talking about like flipping the switch, but like every day you have a business, it costs something because you have software that you pay for on a monthly basis. You have, camera purchases, and you have ongoing other softwares and things. So regardless of whether you're booking any jobs, there are costs involved. So without doing anything, it costs something today for your business to run. And then you also have to think, well, what does it cost for me to live? Like, what are my daily, monthly expenses? Like, what are my hard costs? Not like, what does vacation cost, even though I feel like you need to budget for vacation. But at the very, very least, what does it cost for, rent, car stuff, food, the things that you have to have? Netflix, all of the essentials. So there are bare minimum costs that you just have to know. Okay, so you whittle that down to what does it look like on a daily basis or a weekly basis? And then, one of my points was when somebody says whatever that number is, $350, $500, $1,000, we turned down two projects this past week, a $7,500 project and a $10,000 project. We turned them down because, number one, it was going to be a lot of work. And we don't mind a lot of work, but when we look at what it costs for us to step out the studio doors and to go to somebody's place of business, that costs something. There is a minimum cost involved. And when you don't have that figured out, then it's somebody calls for a $350 job and you're like, well, I'm not doing anything, so I might as well. But here's the thing. Maybe this is the pivotal. I'm going to start saying pivotable. I like that better. This is the pivotable. Really, I'm going to start saying it. This is the pivotable moment in this episode. You have to know what it costs to run your business. You have to know what it costs, what the value is that you bring to a job. When you say yes to a job that doesn't pay for or doesn't meet or ideally exceed what it costs for you to run the business on a given day or week or month. When you're saying yes to that, you are saying no to something else. And if you don't want to do $350 jobs, if you do, whatever your number is, whatever the number is that you get annoyed by when people, tell you, well, they've only got this much or they only want, I know there's so many of us out there that just say like, well, $1,000, that's my sweet spot. But, when people say $500, whatever that number is, when you say yes to that low cheapskate number, you're saying no to any other opportunity. Because the thing is, that job is, let's say it's a full day of shooting, okay? And then it's 2 days of editing. And then it's, an hour drive, and it's 2 hours on the phone, and it's 30 minutes emailing back and forth, and then a contract. And so you've got, let's just say there's 4 days invested in, and that's probably liberal, right? So let's say it's 2 days for a $350 job, and you do the math, and there's two of you working on this project. Your hourly rate is like, you've destroyed it. It's like nothing. And then you've also lost 2 or 3 days for another opportunity, because there are other opportunities out there. So, but when you say yes to that, you're saying no to something else. And part of my point in speaking with this couple was, if you want bigger clients, you need to be doing something else, because their strategy is mostly inbound. So mostly people reaching out to them saying, hey, we need a video, versus them going out. So I said, well, part of the problem that most of us have is that we're not going out and we're not looking for the work. We're not meeting with people that we want to do work with. We're not networking. We're not spending time in the circles of the people that have more money and bigger budgets and value what we do. And so what if you took those 2 days that it would take to do this $350 project, and maybe you're not breaking it up, or maybe you're not just saying, okay, back to back 2 days, but like, let's take 16 hours that you could get in those 2 days and spread those 16 hours over the course of 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 days or 2 weeks or something like that. And you're going to coffee, you're going to a networking meeting, you're, when I say going to coffee, you're going to coffee with somebody who you like, respect, want to hang out with, want to learn from, would love to do work with, and you're investing in that kind of stuff. So when you're investing in that kind of stuff, granted, you did not make $350, you've made $0, you've actually probably spent a little bit of money going to a networking event and paying, the cover charge $20 or $50 or whatever it is, or the membership fee for the year where you can go multiple times, or you've bought coffee or you've bought lunch for somebody. So you've invested more money. So not only did you not make $350, but you've spent $150. So it seems like maybe you're negative $500, right? Because you had the opportunity cost of $350, plus what I'm going to say is actually invested $150. You are sowing seeds. You are making an investment with that option. So when you say yes to the $350 job, you're saying no to opportunities where you could be investing in, growing in, creating opportunities that will far exceed the $350 budget. Because when you're going out, then you're able to tell people, hey, our starting prices are... Instead of haggling, instead of having people call you and say, this is what we need, this is our budget, then you're kind of stuck at that point. Then you're like, well, am I going to negotiate with them or not? My other point to them was like, you can just put your foot down and say, I'm sorry, projects like this actually start at $1,500. And if they walk, they walk. Great. And if they say, you know what, we've talked to a couple of other people, we haven't liked what we've seen, that they could do it for $350, but let's just go with you. So if that happens, awesome. If it doesn't happen, great. Move on. Think through, wow, I just won 2 days worth of investing in my own sales and marketing so that I can book more $1,500 jobs, $2,500, $5,000 jobs. That is where we need to be thinking. That is how we need to be spending some of our time, not all of our time. You don't have to spend 40 hours a week doing sales calls and marketing and networking. That's not, you could get by with spending, I don't know, I'm going to say 2 hours a week. If you budgeted 2 hours a week, broke that up into, one coffee meeting, a couple of Zoom, 20-minute Zoom calls, and a networking meeting, maybe that's 3 hours. I don't know. But if you did that consistently, oh my goodness. If you were confident in how you were doing that, there's no way that you would not be super busy, and super busy doing projects that are within the budget range of what makes sense for you, what it costs plus profit to run your business, to grow, to thrive instead of just survive. I want so bad for this couple to be able to both be in this full time and to be charging their minimum fee, which is not $350, which is $1,500, which is $2,000, more than that. So my parting words are: one, value value. I didn't mean to say that 3 times, but I felt like the first time I said value, I didn't say it that well. But I'll drive the point home. Value yourself. Number 2, know your value, know your worth, know what it costs to run your business, to live your life. You have to know those numbers. Get some kind of an idea, and then create some kind of a plan to go out and not just wait for people to find you, to come to you with their agenda, with exactly what they want, with the budget they have kind of preconceived in their mind. Don't wait for those. Entertain those when they come, but also be confident in how you're responding. Be confident in what you know that you have to make. So if you do have to make concessions, there's no question marks. As soon as you know what it costs to do a project and you know if you're going to be profitable or not, it becomes really easy to be able to say no to a job that's way below because you know you're going to be losing money. You're going to be losing opportunities. So you have to know that. I have a Budget Maximizer course. We are launching a brand new Budget Maximizer course very, very soon. The Budget Maximizer is one of the most popular trainings that I have. It launched as a spreadsheet. It's a spreadsheet that we use to keep track of all of our estimates in quoting clients. It shows us if we're going to be profitable. We plug in all of our numbers for what we need to make, hourly, daily, half days, that sort of stuff. And we can plug in numbers and we know what our numbers are. We can manipulate those because we can see how profitable we will be on this particular job. Did I say particular a lot? And then at that point, if it costs us $2,500 to do the job, and that's including this profit margin, which you have to have in order to grow a business, not just survive. When you know that number, you know how much you can flex. And you know how much you can flex based on how busy you are. If you're really busy, you don't flex on it. If you're like, we're pretty slow, then you can flex on it, but you know how low you can go before you start losing money, before you start wasting time, before you start losing out on other opportunities. So this whole idea of saying yes to a job only when it makes sense, and you can say no when it doesn't, so that you are able to grow. That's the point of this show. That's the point of Studio Sherpas. I want to help guide you grow your business so you're not just like week to week, like, am I going to make it? Can I do this? You can do this. You just have to be smart about it. So this new training, you can find out more information if you go to studiosherpas.com/budget. I'm going to have a sign up there, and I'm going to do a free training that's going to be all about how to budget. And then if that is helpful for you, if you like that, then there's going to be an opportunity for you to purchase this brand new training that includes this spreadsheet, but also really walking you through how to price yourself, how to know what to charge, all the ins and outs of like, what the heck, why do I have to charge on top of what my hourly rate is? Does that even make sense? If so, how much higher do I need to go? Do I have to charge if I'm partnering with a contractor? Do I charge for that person's time? Why would you do that? Why does that make sense? These are all of the things that you need to have some kind of a grasp on. And so I want to take you through this. It's something that you can do over the weekend, and by the end of the course, you'll be able to plug in your own numbers for what makes sense. You'll be able to know what do we need to make in order to be profitable, and then you can start saying no to jobs that don't make sense. And when you do, then you can use that extra time to be looking for the kind of jobs that you really want to be doing, the jobs that are going to be profitable, way more exciting, not feel like, oh gosh, we got to do this job, like they totally don't value us. Like, forget that stuff, man. Like, just let's stop doing that work. That's my mission, is to help you to stop having to work with cheapskate clients. If you want to work with them, great. But if you're kind of done with that, let's go. All right. I'm fired up. Thanks for listening to the show. Again, studiosherpas.com/budget, and that's going to take you to the all new training. If you're listening to this episode right this moment, it might not be ready. So there might be a landing page that's just there to collect your email. And then as soon as it's done, you'll get an email and you'll be able to check that out and hopefully benefit from it. Hopefully profit from it. See what I did there? All right, my friend, thanks so much for hanging out. Take care of yourself. And if you like this episode, please share it. And that's all I got. I'll talk to you soon. I'll see you next week. Looking forward to it. Adios.